Good morning, Hacksters! It is my favorite day of the week. It is Tuesday, and we have another Hackster Cafe for you. This time we're talking to Eric Pan, a celebrity in the world of hardware making. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. Thanks, Alex. It's very happy to be back to the Hackster community.
Yeah, and just to introduce people who may not know you already, they certainly know Seed Studio, possibly know Chaihuo Makerspace, both of which you founded, and you have a new initiative called IoT Into the Wild, which is partly why we're here today, and I'd love to hear some about that.
Yeah,
But
it's a very long story, and let's
yeah,
try to make it short. Is From 2008, we started to do open source hardware. We created maker spaces in China, in Shenzhen, and then we keep working with the global community of makers. And we have our Hackster page from very early, and
yeah,
now it's still alive. And we keep collecting and inviting people to share what they created and show people how to do that. And I think we keep that core and the spirit and our foundations. But from several years ago, we started to move on. We started to expand the journey, trying to create more productivity beyond the possibilities. So we
mm,
believe that there are a lot of makers are trying to accomplish something in the real world, but how can we do that better by creating more reliable devices so people can really survive in the real world.
mm,
What's next is we challenge ourselves to the most difficult situations for IoT.
mm.
Is like how do we create some solution in the real wild, which means there's no electricity, there's no communication, there's no coverage, even sometimes there's no road. You have to survive, not yourself, but your sensors, your devices. So we have been trying to do that, and we also feel excited is about there's so many possibilities and so many potentialities in the wild because it's beyond civilization, and which means if we talk about digital transformation, there are so many things are missing there. But I think for the makers, we already see so many people are trying to do things about biodiversities, trying to do things
Yeah.
about environmental protections, monitorings. So I think it's time for us to challenge ourselves towards that. And oh, you already put up that page. So it's about we create a new page called IoT Into the Wild. So you can see beyond the previous open source hardware modules we create, we look at the challenges and we categorize them into three parts. First, we need to have more sensors,
Mm.
which is like a service, which is durable, like this one here.
They're so small. From these images and videos online I've seen, I sort of
Yeah,
expected it to be like a foot long or and it's so compact. It's incredible. Especially once we get to hear like what
it's
all
not
these tech
small as a
advantages.
module, but it's still easy to carry them around
Mm,
and shoot them in the wild and plug the sensors into the ground and see the data from 10 kilometers away for 10 years. So I think the readiness is there, but how do we make it then more easier to use? Like
mm,
you use a mobile phone, scan a QR code, then it's up and running, get the data. So
yeah.
it's not for the original makers. It's more for a developers of a less hardware background, but we can really enable much like larger basis of users. So we hope people can use them as a tool set, but not as a skill set.
Yeah,
So
like you're
this is
mentioning.
the steps we're trying to simplify. Yeah,
Mm,
stop me if you have any questions or anything I can explain better because I'm too familiar with this kind of stuff now. And we also bridge them with the cloud platforms like Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, and also you can deploy them in your private cloud. And going forward, we have the edge computing going on. We
mm,
have the coverage because whenever it goes into the wild, the most critical thing is about how do you access the data,
Mm.
because a lot of places we can guess like 99% of the planet Earth has no cellular coverage. So you have to
Yeah.
find out your own way to build up the hotspot. And we have been creating a lot of hotspot for last year for
Mm.
helium, for TPN. So we have over 150, maybe 150K hotspots out there running.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like the road has been built. And I think for most popular cities in the United States, you can find the network of LoRa. And the infrastructure is really like never before. And you don't need to worry about, "Oh, where can I get my SIM card, where can I get this and that." You just pull out your mobile phone, scan it to the barcode, and bind into your account. It's a data. So I think it is quite interesting time for the last year, maybe for the last 2 years. Maybe a lot of makers are wondering, okay, what else should I do next? The
Mm.
most interesting things that have been done then 3 years ago or 10 years ago. So what's next?
Oh.
So, so what we're thinking is maybe we can rethink what we can do. The sensors are there. We can create more, and you can have the coverage which is already established by you or
Yeah.
by like 100,000 people more all over the
Mm.
world. And then you see that's the gateway. We test them for the ultimate like distances, like granted if it's line of sight, it's 10 kilometers.
10
And
kilometers. Yeah. That's
yeah,
a big
people
one.
are trying to tune their antennas for different setups. Sometimes they put them in the wind generators, and so
Ah.
they can cover like
Oh, yeah, because you'd be
50,
able to see.
60 kilometers.
Dang! Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's working and it's getting reliable.
That's so
So to
cool.
make this kind of hardware devices, we challenge ourselves in the 4 seasons.
Mhm.
If we do them in the lab, post in the Hackster, I think it's easy. It's like fun, but you have to do the difficult part. Like we put them into the T field in the winter. It's all the snows. It was the dew
Yeah.
points. It's very likely this device get damaged. So we have to rethink the engineering part, and we have to do a lot of field tests to get them working. So then going down further, you have the coverage, you have the sensors, but how about the data? Because most of places the 4G uplink is very poor.
Yeah.
So likely people need to have some edge devices to do the computing storage on site, on premise. So we starting from a Raspberry Pi big board, but we encapsulate them into more ready to deploy devices. And
Yeah.
we put the AI inside, and now we are doing node rate, so people don't really know about coding, they can just open the box, plug the IP camera, and get it working. So
Cool.
all the way we are trying to challenge the situations in the wild, and also trying to make it open so we can co-create with different people with different background. And that's the starting of the story of the new journey. And the next step is we work with Hackster to launch the context.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So that's
that's
going on
where
right
it's
now.
going on. Yeah, I think we just announced it 2 or 3 days ago, and we already
Mm.
have more than 150 participants.
Yeah. And a bunch of people
Yeah,
applying for hardware, which is an important part to note. There is a free hardware
yeah,
application
there's free
process.
hardware, and the hardware is not shipping yet.
Mhm.
But I have the first, I'll say,
Ooh,
something in my head. So it's going to be
cool.
this LoRaWAN dev kits. So inside we are going to have the wire terminal. So you don't need to do like all the preparation. It's a plugin and it's working. But
Mhm.
most importantly, the fun part is this. Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. Here's my camera. So this is a Groove module,
Huh.
but we have it's a Groove module,
Mhm.
but we have a camera on it. It has machine learning, has NPU inside.
Huh.
So you can actually do the inferencing on the device. You can change the
Mm.
Onyx machine learning model through the USB-C, then connect it back, like send the inference data back to the controller.
Wow.
So this is I think the first one of the first grooves we made with such a challenging thing, and also it's a very super low power, and we tested it in the field already. I will show you some pictures later.
Yes.
So
I'm so
through
excited
this
about
with the
that.
battery, it
Ooh.
can be voice inferencing for like 2 years, and then
Wow.
it's wire terminal module. I think we have shown it for too many times, and
Mhm.
plus LoRa. So it's going to be a combination with tiny machine learning, LoRa, and a graphic interface.
That's so
I
cool.
believe with the Hackster community, we can create a lot of things. And I like to mention again because there are so many LoRaWAN network established already. You just need to scan a 2D barcode after deployment, and it's connected. And you have the data on the cloud, the affiliated ones you want to use, and of course you can expand more like sensors, and we can
Yeah.
do sensors. So it will be all including this kit, the soil moisture sensors, and this is going to be the temperature, humidity, and this is going to be CO2e, like in which you can measure the carbon emissions with this whole.
Mm.
So, in my,
Wow.
like, I think it's the first time we give away so many like hardware together. We are preparing 100 set of these.
Yeah.
So apply for the contest and let
Yeah.
us know the ideas you're going to create, and we will send you the kits soon,
Super
and you
cool.
can share. But we don't. I think one big difference for this Hackster context is that we don't want to just show people, okay, this is a possibility, and just redo it yourself. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel for another 10 years. Like we can share a lot of these creations,
Mm.
because we feel a lot of the solution they deserve to go to the next level, which means we can actually deploy them, like make them into a commercial ready set that everybody can buy from us or from anywhere, from DK Mouser, from all the channels. And then you can reinvent your software on it, redeploy them into different situations and share back. I think only by doing that we can move on to the next level. So after this contest, we will select the potential projects with other judges. We invite judges from conservationists with a different background who really need
Mm.
this kind of stuff. So it's not only from tech companies like us. Okay, we like this. We are passionate about that. But it goes on. We invite people who really has the demands, and they have been working into the conservation, the SDG domain for many years. Like the best thing is from the MSc partners. They work with conservationists. They are system integrator for the conservations. So they like we invite Zhao Peng, who is doing conservation for the panda. Like
Mm.
so they know the constraints and demands. So it's instead of a show off, it's more like a challenge between who
Yeah.
really the problem and the Hackster community, the makers who has skill sets to accomplish that. So
Yeah.
come to join the real world challenge, and we'll help you to scale that up to make it really commercializable and to sell to the global distribution channels and share the profit back. So
Nice.
we hope this is going to be a new form. So that's the non-story short. We took like 15 minutes to explain the technology behind the contests.
Yeah, and we'll put the link in the description below, of course. There's you can also go to Hackster.io/contests and apply for this already. Go register. You were mentioning that you've been asking this question about what can we build next, and you've really laid it out for people in this contest what the exact 5 challenges are that we want to sort of focus on, and we can maybe run through those really quick. We've got climate crisis prevention and mitigation. Prevention is one side, mitigation also another thing. Like, we all have to live on this planet, and pandas do too, and so do other animals and things. But we're going to come back to pandas, just a promise. Wildlife and biodiversity conservation, um, of any type. Doesn't have to be charismatic megafauna. We've got marine conservation, open science, and sustainable agriculture. All kinds of different applications for this, like real world challenges for this technology. And you do have um, this technology. Obviously, we're giving out these LoRaWAN dev kits, which feature the YO terminal, like you were talking about. We've covered that before on the channel. We got it with Edge Impulse and drag and drop machine learning with Codecraft. So many different options for people to get started with this kit. But then also, you can take those same solutions and, like you were saying, sort of deploy them onto this really rugged and ready to sort of drop into the terrain versions of this. So, in the kit, you're planning to have a soil moisture sensor, like right here. And there's also like a really intense, rugged pro version of that as well in the SenseCAP line. Similarly, with, like you were mentioning, the CO2e and temperature and humidity sensing, there's already a SenseCAP module for that as well. So anything that you develop for this contest is going to be something that you can also deploy immediately in the real world. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. I think
Cool.
that's the key for that. For example, this is a soil moisture sensor. I think a lot of people have been trying that. It's ready to use. But if you deploy them in the rainforest or even just in your garden, it will be broken for like a very short rainfall.
Mm.
So we create something like this. And this is the sensor. It's super rugged. It has the RF transmitters and receivers to make it more precise. But the
Mm.
key is here that we made this super durable. If you can see it clear, it has
Mm.
built-in battery. It has the LoRa chipsets, encryptions, everything, and this battery can last for more than 10 years.
That's incredible.
And it's incredible, and we like it. And but if you look at the enclosure, it's
Mhm.
very thick because it's waterproof IP66,
Mhm.
and we use a very special material, so it can be durable to survive in the sunlight for more than 10 years. It's the
Right,
UV
with UV exposure.
things, everything, and we have our best engineers trying very hard to make this working. And it's a lot of tests that went on. We will share that later as well. So we were trying to open source a lot of these efforts. But anyway, if you don't want to bother with these details, you can just deploy them.
Mm.
But I think it's a very collectively event. You can either create your own version for LoRa, like for to change it to different form factors. You can just use this one, and we can also work with people to create a new forms of sensors. So that's many steps available after this contest. And I think I like to add to a few things is if you look at
Mm.
the 5 challenges like the climate change, etc. All the SDGs we are talking about is because the big companies are not caring enough about that. So we
Mhm.
cannot wait for some one single company to cure these issues. So it's a very collective efforts, like people from different places, makers, small companies. Like we should work together in a common ground. Like we create the toolkits to share the knowledges, but we don't create something to save the world. But we
Yeah.
bring this latest technology, open technology for the wild back to your neighborhoods, back to your villages, back to your country, and to deploy them yourselves. So I think we hope this could be a possibility for the next step for the maker movement, and we need a better why. So that's why we bring these challenges together. I believe you guys have the
Absolutely.
power.
And you
Yeah.
mentioned SDGs, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, so
Yes.
that you can find out more about those by just looking up the UN SDGs. But uh, specifically focusing on these 5 things for the contest. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Of course, it would be great if the big profit centers of the world could focus on this, but while we work on it from all angles, this is an angle that we can all work on right now, which is building this stuff and deploying it in our own backyard. It's amazing. Um, yeah, and there's all these different. You mentioned that there are existing SenseCAP products for a bunch of different applications, including air quality, weather sensing, um, vision AI sensing, edge devices. But there's also a module that is designed to bring your own um, uh, modules and designs, for example, anything of these existing Grove modules, and put them into this same ultra durable container. Um, so you can take any of those modules that already exist and deploy it in the wild in that same sort of container that you've developed with the system for low power, long term sensor deployment in a really rugged frame,
Yeah.
which I think is really cool.
So this controller is like a bridge. So
Hmm.
it's a bridge of two worlds. One is more very industrial, real world, like they have all kinds of very mean demands, and another world is a maker world that we can freely to create with one of the familiar tools we have, and with Groove, with all the sensors, Arduino, or like TinyML. So I think it's a bridge. So it's
There's
like an
so many
invitation
Grove
letter.
sensors too.
Yeah.
Yeah, 500 plus Grove modules. Um, and like you're mentioning, this not to repeat things to death, but one final point here that you've mentioned already, just to summarize that yeah, as you're mentioning, it has the tools for people who are working on the really sort of consumer end, people who aren't familiar with hardware at all, and then you can bridge it up to cloud services if you're familiar with software. If you're more of a software person, there's plenty for you to do here, and it's really easy for you to get started with the hardware side. And then also, if you're more interested in tinkering with the hardware side of things, that's also available for you. So anyone who even if you have neither of those skills, but you just want to get started, if you're a software person or you're a hardware person, there's a place for you in this system for all of you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And more
Um,
importantly, I think eventually it's not going to be the technology people using
mm,
the technology. It's going to be the people with real understanding the real demands, like the rangers in the forests, the farmers in the fields. So these should be the
mhm.
users of IoT of what we created. So it has to be simple enough, it has to be durable enough, and it should be like really resolving problems in all of the details. So we are trying to do
Absolutely.
that ourselves sometimes. Yeah, maybe
So
we can share our NASA journey into the mountains.
yes, please. I was just gonna ask. Speaking of deploying
That's a
things
very
into the real
exciting
world.
part. So because we're talking about IoT into the wild, we cannot
Mm,
just wait for you to do that. We have to do it ourselves. So we do the pioneering a little bit. We went to a very deep mountain in west of China. Let me share the screen. Can you see it?
it's
Okay,
just coming
good.
up here. There we go.
Yeah. So it's a national park of Panda. It's the place where has the most quantity of wild pandas. It's in Pingwu. So we have some connections there through some middle users, and they introduce us to them. And our plan is this: let's go to the most wild places. bring our sensors, bring our gateways. It's trying to detect and monitor some pandas in the wild. It's totally a long shot. We don't know it's going to happen or not.
Mm.
It's still going to be working or not. We're trying to train our like AI sensors back in the office with some pictures, with videos, even with some fake pandas cosplayed by our engineers. So we bring that
It's
trained
been a
model
fun day.
seriously. Yeah, and went on to a journey. So this is the camera they are using now for the wildlife protection. If you are familiar with this one, first one is the small consumer cameras.
Mm.
They hack it with IR emitter. So
Mm.
it's a very DIY. It's very maker style trigger cam for about 10 years ago. Now it's evolving into something that is very easy to deploy as a product. But we feel next step maybe we can have AI and LoRaWAN to complement that. So we went down to the protection station with all the antennas, the NORA gateways we have, trying to re-engineering their network a little bit under guarantee, under approval. So this is like protection station. Maybe you can see from the corner of the balcony there is the antenna. That's where we like
Oh yeah.
installed the gateway. And beyond this point, there's no electricity, there's no coverage. So we hope this antenna can survive for at least some distances. And if you can see from the right, from the near end of the mountain, that's where the signal can reach. It's about
Wow.
uh, about 1 kilometers line of sight. But beyond that, it's going to the exact into the mountains, and it's difficult for now. But we trying hard with our sensors in our hand, like we did some serious hiking into no
Uh-huh.
man's land with the rangers, and trying to tell if there's a signal and in our hand. So in the end, we found a place has meet several requirements. First, it's where there is a signal. We can receive a signal from the station, and has enough bamboos around. We even find the pandas boobs. We can find the pandas has been like walking around a few weeks later before.
Ah.
So we installed a camera flash with the AI tiny male SenseCAP sensors with a vision on the tree. You may see that from while we've been installing.
Cool.
So
Ah.
it's activated, suddenly looking at the bamboo forests to tell if there's a panda around. So we deployed that because we have to come back to Shenzhen. So this was like about uh, 4 days ago,
Mm.
last week.
Wow.
So the data is live until today, and we can see from the readings. So 0.99 means there's absolutely nothing
Uh-huh.
moving, nothing changing. But if you see 1 point something, which
Mm-hmm.
means we use like a compression way to make sure the message is short. If you see the 1.76, which means it's like 76 percentage is likely it's a panda.
Ah,
So out
cool.
of the 4 days data, we see like three or four spiking readings. Each of them lasted for like um, you see from that half an hour ish. So it usually happens in the early morning or in the dawn, in the
Mm.
sunset. So it repeats. And until today, we this afternoon, actually, it's even midnight here. This afternoon, the rangers send out their pictures of their trigger can. They found out
Ah!
the live. They found the picture of the panda, a place very near where we deployed the AI sensors. And according to them, their expertise, they think it's the same panda. By the hand being like it moved, walked into the sensors we deployed. So this
That's
is
so cool.
well beyond any imaginations. We because we can expect it's going to be so easy and successful for the first time. We don't like our sensor had never seen a real panda, and through the just the videos, images we trained, and it works. So that's very very exciting, and because it's open it's an open framework, and people can use tiny machine learnings to try different models. So we can keep on going with elephants, with boars, with bears, or with anything we might be like
Anything.
hearing about in the wild. I think this is one of the first step. But not
I
to
love
mention
it.
the traditional sensors like soil moisture, temperature, humidity, lightness. We'll keep on doing that, and we
All these
will.
different
But
options.
we were very exciting this afternoon. That okay, just before the cafe, and we have something sending back from 2,000 kilometers
That's
away,
so
showing
cool.
telling us, okay, you guys are blessed, and you have the AI is telling you the truth. It's
I
not
love
just
it.
some random jumping numbers.
You train these models in the office using photos and sometimes people in costumes. You deployed it in the wild. Not only were you able to get a connection, which is like, a first time deployment, getting the whole thing even just set up and running is incredible without any tweaks. And then, like, you go back to Shenzhen and, like, you get this data back. You said 2,000 kilometers away, something like
Yes.
that. And you're sitting in your office and you get this notification that, like, there's
Mhm.
maybe a panda, and the rangers confirm it and they send you a photo. That's just an incredible. How did that feel for you?
um, we feel lucky.
Yeah.
It's very lucky actually, but I think it's a luck with tactics. Like we did a lot of preparations. Like
Mm,
LoRa is very established. The sensor themselves are very established,
right.
and that we choose a national park with Panda. It's a very high density of appearance, but this and importantly, panda is very easy to recognize in the wild because their
Mm,
colors. You know, black and white. How could it be wrong for something has an eye to tell if it's a panda?
yeah,
So
that's a
so
great
I
point.
think we choose some like very good combinations, and with
Yeah.
some effort, some hiking, it actually works. I think eventually we will send after we send out the dev kits to people. You can
Hmm.
try that at your home as well. You can
Yeah.
use some pictures, videos to train for some specific object and try to deploy them. And we can do the similar things for sound, for vibrations. I think AI is quite like mature these days.
Yeah. I shouldn't downplay
You-
you know, it is very exciting that it all worked on the first try, but also it is due to, of course, your expertise in, like, lore one already being established, and, like, that this stuff is going to work, but it's still, like, kind of
Mhm.
magical when it does, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's far from perfect because like for the coverage, we only choose the nearest mountain.
mm,
It's like a 1/10 of the whole national park. You know,
wow.
so so we need to re-engineer our like gateway as well for it can relay the signal back if we deploy in the deep mountains, or we carry it on the back so people can walk in and collect the information back. And also for the for AI algorithm, it can only detect panda for now, but in the future we can add different like animals into it, so it's going to be more meaningful to the rangers.
And speaking of rangers, there's one important point here, which is that we're encouraging people to build things to be deployed into the wild and to deploy them in your backyards. But at the same time, you were working in a wildlife conservation area, and you were working with the rangers, if you're going to be deploying stuff in like an actual wild space, make sure that it's okay.
Yeah.
The area, it may be being managed. Often there's places, at least in the US, like Bureau of Land Management land, where sort of anything goes. But also there's lots of places where you do want to work with the local authorities and make sure that you're not causing harm.
He said, sure, sure. We dare not go in there like alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only by law, but for the wild, it's very cruel. Like the rangers themselves are very caring about the safety.
Mm.
Like they are very prepared. We will write a blog about the whole witnesses later, showing the
Okay.
details. But the rangers, like they are very likely they will have some danger from the wild animals, from the
Mm.
climate. It's a very difficult road, so they keep very like emergency means with them, like following very strict SOP. But like while we were talking with them, they totally want to have some trackers with them, not to put on
Mm.
the animals, but put on themselves.
Yeah.
So their teammates knows where they are they in good health, like that. So it's going to be the next challenge. We are going to make the trackers with like maybe a heartbeat or temperatures on it, so it's wearable. You can bring it like wristband into the wild, and so people knows where you are. You're beating. You are even you can send out some short message back and forth through it'll work.
Mm.
So maybe some of the audiences you can make yourself, and we can work together to deploy them.
Yeah. And we have a question from the audience that
Okay.
can
Well, there are so many comments.
so many comments. I love it.
Oh, great.
And I think this is a great point. Like there is a built-in battery, and it can already run for like depending on the sensor, it could run for up to 10 years already. But you could, in
Mhm.
theory, power it. You could develop a module that could power it from hydropower or solar power or whatever.
Ah, yes. Uh, in some of the models, we leave a channel that you can
Hmm.
power the whole thing from the cable itself.
Oh, cool.
So it supports a solar panel. You can see from here. Let me pause here. There are some extra terminals you can supply it with it,
Oh,
like a
cool.
external battery.
That's awesome. So the answer is yes. Yes, you could set up some hydropower there. You could set up some solar
Mhm.
power, wind power. I know that there's little wind
But
turbines that you can get.
whenever we go to the wild, we found it's difficult as well. For example, uh, in the mountain, not everywhere you can find the hydropower.
Right.
The panda might not be going like near the water anytime. And in the mountain, we go to a special day, it's sunny, but most of the time of the year, it's in the cloud. There's no
Right.
enough solar power, so the battery power is the default.
Mm.
So only we go to the wild, we see all the like challenges and opportunities, and
And
also for
speak.
the Starlink.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we are thinking about satellites. They are trying to use satellites as well, but because it's in the very deep mountain, if you are here, like in the middle
Mm.
of the valley, a lot of times
That's
you
awesome.
cannot even get a satellite signal
A lot of times
because
I can't get
satellites
a
is
satellite signal on a
growing
hill
in
in
the
San Francisco. So you know,
right.
that's my ISP. But yeah.
Okay.
It's a great question, though. Um, Also, speaking of power, there's the different modules will naturally consume different amounts of power. I'm also curious, on this particular deployment, which modules were you using for this?
We use a vision AI sensor,
Mm, right.
so you
Let
can see
me
from
know
the previous picture,
hmm.
it's like this. It's the same like back with battery and the
Oh, yes.
transmitters, and with a camera in the front. So we'll be shipping them, I think, end of this month.
Hmm.
So please pre-order if you like it.
This one? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's all the different ones. You can also scroll down and find data loggers. This is another interesting one for, if you don't
Yeah,
have signal
because
necessarily.
you can just upgrade any existing like sensors to it.
Mm.
A lot of the industrial sensors.
It's a good point because often, we'll end up with that sort of paradox of when you create a new standard or option for people, what if they have an older standard there and you don't necessarily want to throw all that away and like rip it out every like few years when something cooler comes along. So you can upgrade your existing setup and connect it to this network and take advantage of everything that LoRaWAN has to offer it, including that kilometers of range potentially.
Hmm.
Super cool.
Because we feel like previously we've been talking to all kinds of people like looking for IoT solutions, even for like bridges, like for big bridges, people are monitoring it. But most of its installation are wild. It's very expensive and very fragile. So I think even for these high value objects, it's still missing the IoT, the real IoT solution. I think there's enough room, maybe not the most hot Kickstarter campaign, but
Mm,
a lot of niche markets that we can work together to tackle them in different regions. We can share the know-hows, but we go into the different places altogether
mm,
because most of them are very local projects. You cannot send the IBM to a very small village to
right.
have one single issues. But I believe the makerspace is the fab labs, makers all over the world. They could be the pioneers in the future to do that. And we are very happy to be the arsenal. We very happy to become the NPC to support that. So
Yeah.
that's the ultimate dream for the IoT to the wild. Go beyond the civilizations to transform for the needed.
Yeah. And another advantage of this stuff is that even if you're building it for one specific application, there's all these different applications, including ones that, for example, IBM might be interested in, even if they're not necessarily going to build this thing in your location, you might still be able we can get companies involved by being like, hey, you can use this for other stuff that is an everyday challenge for you already as a company. And a lot of this stuff can be adapted to fit industrial needs as well, ideally as a way to sort of loop them all in and get everyone
Mhm.
working together on this stuff.
Yeah, I think the best way to adapt to the diversity demands is to be open. So feel
Yes.
free to change it, but don't reinvent the wheels. We can work more collectively.
And I can't find it right now, but I think you do have some pre-trained models. You mentioned making the Panda ones available for people,
Mhm.
and anything that comes out of this contest is going to be an open source model that people can use then to sort of
Yeah.
build upon it. Beauty of open source. I love it.
Yes.
Ah, well, let's see. There's so much that I would love. I would love to have like a whole other interview just about you personally and how you came to do all of this. So, could you tell us a little bit how you founded C Studio?
Wow, that's a long
I
story.
know it's a big story, and we only have like a few minutes left, but I'd love to hear just like,
Okay, I'll
what
try to
were
finish
the
it in 1 minute.
okay?
The story is that I was a maker
Sorry.
myself, and
Uh huh.
I try to do something for the other people I like. So that's we created Seed in 2008. I think we keep that ethic, keep that passion until today. Is how can we help makers to provide better tools? How can we understand the demands and go beyond? So I think
Mm,
for the 14 years we keep like doing City Studio into the wild, into the most challenging new stuff. And
yeah.
sometimes we lost. But now I think we are very pretty sure about what we are doing is we'll keep on doing the open source stuff. We will keep working with the maker group, maker community as a foundation. But we need to move on to the industries to bring more possibilities into productivity. So everybody
Mm,
has the skill, they have the why and how to create value for their local community or into their expertise. So for
mm,
City, it's very, I think it's for now. If you look back for 14 years ago, it's like destination. It's like
yeah.
destiny,
Haha.
and nothing
Yes.
else to do has to create a company to the future of us.
And I gotta mention that as a company, you do really have a lot of aspects of what you do that adhere to this. So, for example, the grove sensors. I have this box from like 7 years ago. We were running hackathons across the US, and this is a box full of grove sensors that a ton of different people learned to build hardware for the first time using these grove sensors. We've got our old before we had an actual logo. Like
Wow.
that's how long we've been using these. I learned a bunch of stuff on seed grove kits. You put them out to work with all these different platforms. And I always, whenever we pull out a new seed product, I always mention that you have this wonderful documentation system that just really helps people get up and running. Like for every product, there's this wiki page that gives you the pinouts, gives you hardware setup examples, like really in-depth stuff all on one page. And I think that it really, you have this mission of making it easier for people to get started with this stuff, whether they're hardware novices interested in hardware, whether they just want to like get started and build something more software intensive, whatever stage you're at. It really, I just want to appreciate how well you're doing the exact thing that you say you set out to do, because in my experience, it really has helped a lot of people get started. And
Thank
just
you, Alex.
props.
That's very good encourage to what we have done.
So I'm so excited that we get to move forward together and do this IoT in the Wild contest. So everyone who's watching, of course, I'm going to put this link in the description below. You can already go down to the links and find, sorry, this is going to scroll up forever, so I'll switch over here. You can find IoT Into the Wild on Seed's page and on Hackster.io/contests. Or just search for it and you will find it. It's the future of people making hardware to help make our planet a better place for humans, for animals, and for the future. Thank you so much for joining us, Eric. This has been wonderful.
Thank you, Alex. And it's so quick. We chat up all 1 hour. I think we need to
Someday
have some meetups very time soon. The three
soon.
years COVID is shutting the whole thing down. But
Yeah,
glad
yeah,
we
yeah.
have the face. Thank you so much for organizing this.
Yes, and thank you everyone for joining us in the comments. We love seeing your questions and things, and hopefully we'll get to meet soon in the real world and have like a real conversation and stuff. Uh, Thanks again, Eric. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you so
Have a great
much.
rest of
Take care,
your
everyone.
day.